Mr. Industries and Cleantech Department, Business France, and Mr. Vivian Masso, French Foreign Trade Advisor, CCEF, and Managing Director, India at TAC Economics France. We wholeheartedly welcome you, sir, to this webinar. The secret of getting ahead is getting started. Hence, it's time we commence our program with the college anthem.
Stopping by the shimmering shores of time, musing on the timeless truth sublime. Seek aside a gleam on flaming wings. Sacred heart, the soul enchanted sings. Blessed are we on this praising shore, blissfully gleaning pearls of lore. Pilgrims on these pastures green, seeking joy, hinterlands unseen. Sacred hearts, abode of light, shine on bright, abiding hearts. Sacred heart, shrine of light, shower your beams, make us one at heart.
Now, I would like to invite Ms. Priya PS, Assistant Professor, PG and Research Department of Commerce, Sacred Heart College, Tevra, for the welcome address.
Good afternoon, everyone. Learning gives creativity. Creativity leads to thinking. Thinking provides knowledge, and knowledge makes you great. These are the words of Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. Dear Excellencies, distinguished guests, scholars, professors, ladies and gentlemen, it is a matter of immense pleasure and honor to welcome you all to the international webinar, French Commerce Opportunities in India, which is jointly organized by the Department of French and the PG and Research Department of Commerce, Sacred Heart College, Autonomous. The duty bestowed upon me is to welcome one and all gathered here. First of all, I wish to extend a warm welcome to Reverend Dr. Prashant Palakapillil, CMI, our beloved principal, to this August gathering. In spite of his heavy schedule, he accepted to grace today's function as a chief guest. We are really indebted to you, Father. It is indeed a matter of great pride and immense pleasure to welcome Monsieur Eric Perrotel, Attaché for Cooperation in French Language, Zulia Romano, Trade Officer, Industries and Clean Tech Department, Business France, and Vivio Masso, French Foreign Trade Advisor and Managing Director of India at TAC Economics. Angro, bienvenue. We are waiting with full of abundance to listen to your motivational words. Let us extend my warm welcome to Dr. Joseph George, Dean of Commerce, and Dr. Shobha Lisa John, Head of the Department of French, and Ms. Tessa Mary Jose, Head of the PG and Research Department of Commerce, to this gathering. Their presence is always a moral boost for us. Hadn't it been with their cooperation, today's function couldn't have been so successful. I cordially invite all other dear faculty members who have been the concrete blocks for this session. I accord a genial welcome to all the dignitaries, invitees, faculty, and the vibrant students from various institutions for coming and joining us in this international webinar. I welcome you all to this gathering, and may this session be fruitful, and I wish that it helped to step you up in the virtual platforms ahead. Thank you all.
Thank you, ma'am. Now I welcome our Honorable Principal, Reverend Dr. Prashant Palakapillil, CMI, for the inaugural address.
Bonjour. Je regrette que je ne puisse pas parler français. I cannot really speak any French, but I believe this is a new venture. And this is great to see that diverse disciplines can come together to have that synergy which we all speak about. So this is becoming a reality now, and especially in these very, very difficult days, such possibilities are being opened to us is a great thing. And I'm really glad that commerce stream as well as our languages, especially French streams, have joined together to provide this platform and explore the possibilities that is there where we can establish industry, business, livelihood options could emerge from that. I hope this will be a wonderful start, and I hope that this will lead to newer insights and newer ventures. I wish the gathering very best, and I thank the entire team from the French side for having spared the time and interest and the interest they have shown in this. I wish the gathering the very best. May the Sacred Heart of Jesus bless us all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your energizing words. Next, it's time to invite that person who had played an important role in organizing this international webinar by taking utmost care in inviting today's two eminent personalities in the field of commerce. Yes, it's Sir Eric Perotel, the attaché for cooperation in French language, French Embassy in India. Over to you, sir.
Bonjour, hello to everyone. I hope you can hear me. Thank you, Dr. Prashant and Ms. Priya, for giving us this opportunity. I would also like to thank Dr. Shobalis John for the organization, but also for her enthusiasm. There are long-standing and historical ties between India and France, as you may know. And nowadays, France is India's largest European employer. In this era of globalization, it has become imperative to learn a foreign language. And the French language becomes an asset for those who are looking for jobs. So I'm sorry for that. So I was just telling that there are long-standing and historical ties between India and France. And nowadays, France is India's largest European employer. In this era of globalization, it has become imperative to learn a foreign language. And the French language becomes an asset for those who are looking for jobs. French, along with English, is the only language spoken on all continents and is the official language in 29 countries. Now, with 300 million speakers worldwide, French is the fifth most spoken language in the world. And by 2050, the number of French speakers in the world is projected to reach the number of 750 million, thanks to rising fluency and population growth in Africa. It's the third most useful language for business and the primary or secondary language for many international organizations, such as the United Nations, the AU, NATO, WTO, and the International Olympic Committee. France offers students a full spectrum of academic and professional opportunities at affordable cost and is an attractive destination for higher education. We also offer more than 1,500 programs taught in English. 10,000 Indian students went to France last year. For more details, we organized an online Choose France tour on 6 and 7 November. And on the chat, I will give you, just after that, I'm going to give you the link for this Choose France tour. It will be in English. I will now give the floor to my colleague, Mr. Romano, Trade Officer, who will present to you in detail what Business France is. And after, you will meet Mr. Masso, French Foreign Trade Advisor for the CCEF, and also Managing Director India at TAC Economics. I want to thank them both for being with us today. Merci.
Merci Eric. Est-ce que vous pouvez demander à Julien de rejoindre parce qu'il n'est pas là?
So good afternoon to everyone. So my name is Julien Romano. I'm working for Business France as a trade officer here in India. First of all, I would like to thank all of you for joining this session today, and a special thanks to the Sacred Heart College. Thank you for this wonderful opportunity. So my presentation will be about what are we doing in India, Business France, my company, and a little presentation about the French ecosystem here in India, which companies are present, and what are the job opportunities also. To start this presentation, I wanted to quote our French President, Emmanuel Macron, during his recent visit in India back in 2018. France is the entry point to the EU. We want to be India's best partner in Europe. And indeed, France and India have really strong relationship, both cultural and economically. And that's what I'm going to show you today. So about Business France, what is Business France and what are we doing here in India? So Business France is a national agency supporting the international development of the French economy, responsible for fostering export growth by French businesses. So we have an export side, so we are helping small to mid-sized French companies to export in India, win contracts, win markets, and export their solution and their products. But we also promote and facilitate international investment in France, which means we are helping Indian investors and Indian companies to settle a business in France, hire people also, and basically facilitate their arrival. So doing that, we are helping France as a country, bringing jobs and bringing companies. We are also responsible of the international internship program called VIE, which is a really interesting program for French graduates that can come and work in India for 1 or 2 years in French companies. So it's a really good opportunity for them because they have a lot of responsibilities at some managerial positions, and they can also discover a new country, speak English, and it's really interesting for company because it helps them to target the best candidates in France who wants to travel and who wants to work abroad. Business France in India, as you can see here, we are around 33 people. So Eric Fajol is our director at Business France India, but also in South Asia, because we are responsible also of the Bangladesh and Sri Lankan market. The Invest team, so helping Indian investors and Indian companies move in France. Audrey Luc-Bernet is responsible of that part. And we have 4 different sections. So we have industry and clean tech, agrotech, lifestyle and healthcare, and tech and services. So these are the main domains where we are doing business here in India. Just few numbers for you. We helped over 300 companies last year, and we have 4 offices in India. So we are based in Delhi at the French embassy. We have also an office in Mumbai, Bangalore, and Chennai, where I'm staying at the moment. So what about the French ecosystem here in India? Which companies are present, and how many employees have they employed here in India? So in India, there is approximately 1,000 French companies employing more than 300,000 people. 39 of the 40 largest French companies are present in India. So the CAC 40 represents the 40 largest French companies in terms of stock value, and only one of them is not currently in India. So that shows you how the French ecosystem is developing India as a strategic market. Few examples of French employers here in India. So you have L'Oréal, which I think you probably know. You have Alstom, you have Renault, Safran, Dassault, Decathlon, and Atos. So as you can see, it's a very wide range of sectors. You have automobile, you have aerospace, but you have also services, software companies, and those companies are present all across India, not only in Delhi or in Mumbai. They are also in Chennai, they're also in Bangalore, in Maharashtra, everywhere basically in India where there is business. I wanted to talk a bit more about Safran because it has a long-standing presence in India. They've been in India for more than 65 years. They're working in aerospace and defense markets, and they employ around 600 employees in the country at the moment. They spread across 7 different companies and 1 training center, and they have a joint venture with HAL, Industrial Aeronautics Limited in Bangalore. So why Safran is interesting is because Safran provides engine and equipment for more than 75% of airplanes and helicopters here in India. So basically, if you travel by flight tomorrow, you will probably use a Safran engine. So it's a really big company here in India, and they are doing a lot of research and development, which is really interesting. You have also Renault. Maybe you know them because they are developing 3 vehicles here in India. They have the Kwid, the Triber, and the Duster. They are building a strong presence in India. They have around 7% market share at the moment. So they really improved over the years. And maybe a really good French employers also in India is Atos, which is a technology and software company because they employs around 30,000 people here in India. So that gives you an idea about who is in India and how many people they employ. Now talking about French projects in India, because it's not only about private companies, but I wanted to talk specifically about 3 projects. The first one will be La French Tech in Bangalore. So La French Tech is a nickname of the French startup ecosystem and all those in it. So from bioscience to online marketplace to software to B2B fintech, you have really a really diverse portfolio. And they arrived in India in June 2019, so really recently. And their goal is to create bridges between France and India and develop synergy between the local ecosystem. Basically, they have 3 main focus areas. They want to promote the French tech local ecosystem. They want to help French startups understand and access the Indian market. And they want to connect the Indian tech community to the French ecosystem. Another project which I found interesting is Airbus Biz Lab. So as you may know, Airbus is not a 100% French company. It's an European company, but historically was present in France and still has a lot of suppliers in France. So it's really a really important company for us. And in 2015, they established a Biz Lab in Bangalore. So the first Biz Lab outside Europe. And so what is a Biz Lab? A Biz Lab is part of Airbus global innovation strategy to bring together startups and Airbus entrepreneurs to work and speed up the transformation of their innovative ideas into valuable business. So basically, they gather together entrepreneurs and intrapreneurs of Airbus to work on solutions and innovation. Some few achievements of Airbus Biz Lab in India. They developed 9 successful partnerships between startup and Airbus team. They developed multiple proof of concept initiatives on a variety of topics. So right now they are working on battery technology, electrification, and also geospatial analytics. So as you can see, really, really wide and different solution initiative. And their community is over 2,000 B2B startups here in India, in Southeast Asia. And as you know, Bangalore is like the Silicon Valley of India with a lot of startups. So that's why they're based there. Another interesting company that you must know is Suez. It's not about a specific project because they are doing a lot of different projects, but Suez is working on waste management and water distribution. And recently, they won a contract with Coimbatore to manage and operate the water distribution system within the entire city to ensure continuous drinking water access to its 1.6 million inhabitants. So it's a really big project and it's a long one too. It's a 26 years project worth near 400 million euro. And Suez is doing a lot of different projects across India. So it's really interesting also for you to know. Now I wanted to talk about the institutional presence in India. What are we doing? What the government is doing also here, and two really important actors that you must know in the French ecosystem in India are the IFCI, so the Indo-French Chamber of Commerce. Established in 1977, IFCI belongs to a worldwide network of 120 French Chamber of Commerce. They're based in 90 countries, and they have over 35,000 companies as members, and they're really active in India. They promote different trade relations. They have 600 members, and they organize 100 events a year approximately. So what you must understand today is IFCI is a private actor, so it's not related to the French government. For example, I'm working for Business France. We are directly related to the French government, and we help French companies to move in India from the very beginning. Whereas IFCI is more helping French companies where they are already in India, helping them to network, helping them to communicate, to find contracts, and to basically discuss with the ecosystem here in India. Another interesting actor will be the AFD, the French Development Agency. They have been operating in India since 2008 by developing cooperation actions for sustainable development and the fight against climate change. They have committed around 1.5 billion euro over these 10 years in form of loans to the state and state-owned companies. So they are mainly focusing on three different areas. They are promoting sustainable and integrated urban development. They encourage energy efficiency and renewable energy development, and they conserve the country's biodiversity and natural resources. So what you have to understand is AFD is here in India as an investor to help India successfully achieve its urban energy and ecological transition by participating financially to some interesting projects. For example, in the Sustainable Mobility Department, AFD Action in India is financing the construction of different metro lines in Bangalore, Kochi, Nagpur, Pune, and Surat. So by 2022, more than 3 million people are expected to be using these metro networks. So as you can see, it's really big projects. AFD is also works towards sustainable use of water resources. They are assisting cities of Jodhpur and Pondicherry in optimizing their drinking water distribution network, and also participating in various different projects. I won't cover everything because there is simply a lot, but also one interesting project would be the Smart Cities project. You can maybe look on Google if you want to know more. Regarding the France and India relationship, it has been a really good relationship over the years. And one thing that can highlight that relation will be the defense partnership. Maybe you heard about that, but in September, the Ministry of the Armed Forces of France, Florence Parly, came to India to deliver the first 5 Rafale fighter jets. So India ordered 36 fighter jets a few years ago, and it's a really strategic fighter jet for homeland security and defense, and France is providing them to India. So that's really highlighting the strong relationship that we can have. Also, we have a relationship on different and range of categories such as business, IT, and university, of course, scientific also, and cultural exchanges. Another relationship would be the new Indian Pacific dialogue, which is really important nowadays. And recently, of course, both countries helped each other during the COVID-19 crisis. India exported mass and medical goods to France during the peak back in April, and France did the same to India later on in July. What about the Indian presence in France? Because we talk about the French presence in India, but it's also important to understand how India is doing in France. Right now in France, we have more than 120 Indian companies employing around 8,000 people. So as you can see, France has 1,000 companies in India employing 300,000 people. India is 120 companies and around 8,000 people. So it's really, it's numbers are really different, but it's improving over the years. And Business France goal is also to help that. So the investment portfolio is around 184 million euro, and just to give you some example, of course, we have like the big Indian players. We have Motherson, Tata, Mahindra, and all the others. So in really different sectors, but mostly software and IT, pharmaceutical and biotechs, and also a bit on automotive industry. And they're based all around France as well, mostly in Paris, of course, but also in Lyon and in the south of France, in Marseille or Nice. France is a really attractive country for both companies and students, and it's moving up the international rankings at the moment. So France is the most attractive destination for FDI, foreign direct investment in Europe in 2019, and we are really proud about that. UK is now second, which means France is really attractive for Indian investors, and that is what we promote every day. France is also ranked 12 among the most innovative countries, according to the Global Innovation Index. For example, India is now ranked 48th, which is really good because it really improved over the years. One thing that can be interesting for you is France is the first country in the world outside the Anglosphere for hosting international students, and we are really proud about that. And of course, we are the world's first tourist destination, highlighting Paris also as the most visited country. I hope you can visit us someday if you have the opportunity. Sorry. So now I want to talk about La French Fab. Which is, so what is La French Fab? La French Fab bring together under one common banner the industrial ecosystem across France. So we are directly working with La French Fab. La French Fab is a brand, and we are directly working with them, promoting the French industry and the French innovation across the world. So now I'm going to play a small video about La French Fab. So this is just to show you how diverse the French industry can be. You have a lot of opportunities, both in India and in France, to work in amazing groups, in amazing companies, doing innovative stuff, working in ecology, working in industry, wherever you want, you have a lot of opportunities. So choose France if you want for your future when you will graduate. Thank you very much. So now I'm gonna ask a few questions if you have. Please just ask.
Thank you, sir, for your thought-provoking session. Now we may move on to the question and answer session. May I read out the questions for you, sir?
Yes, of course, please, I will be happy to.
Okay, sir. So I request the attendees to post your queries in the chat box. If you have any queries to ask, sir, you may please post it now in the chat box without fail.
So I hope I was clear about my function and I was not too boring. But you have my mail also. So if you want to ask me questions later on, I would be happy to answer them.
Excusez-moi, mais on voit une question là-bas. We have a question there. What is the qualifications to do job in France, maybe? In France.
So it's really diverse. As I explained a bit during my presentation, French companies and also Indian companies that are in France are in really different sectors. So you have research, you have automotive. So in the industry, of course, we are looking for maybe engineers or doctorates, but we are also looking for business developers and also business development. French companies also like to have international profile in their company, and specifically for the Asian market. So if you have a strong economic analytics background, that's also something that can be interesting, you know, doing market studies or cultural studies for French companies. But it's really diverse. Anyone with any background, any university background can find a job in French companies. You're not supposed to be an engineer to find a job. You can be an economist, you can be a business development officer, and you can find a job. So that's really up to you what you are looking for.
Okay, thank you. Another question is, are there any exams like TOEFL, which we have to clear while work in order to study or work in France? Is proficiency in French an absolute necessity?
So I will maybe let my colleague Eric speak about answer that question.
Yeah, actually, if you want to study in France and if you want to follow a program taught in French, then you need at minimum the B2 level. You know, we have A1, A2, B1, B2, C1, C1, C2. So you've got to make a proof that you have at least this level in French. Now, if you want to follow a program in English, it's something different. You don't need to show any proof or any French level, but we advise you to have a minimum of French so that you can deal in your everyday life, you know, like buying something, having a small conversation with someone. I mean, we don't see the point to be in a country if you don't, if you can't manage with a minimum of the language. So just to answer your question, yes and no, depending on if you want to follow a program in French or in English. And that's again, I would advise you to follow the Choose France tour. I put the link on the chat. I will do it again later in the day after Mr. Massoud's presentation.
Thank you. Merci, Eric. I think we can move on to the next session, if it's okay for everyone. Jean-Vit Vivian Massot à prendre la parole. Vivian, I invite you. I hand over the mic to you to handle the next session.
Thank you for introducing me. Let me share the presentation. The faculty at Sacred Heart College. Good afternoon, everybody. Many thanks to Eric from the French Embassy in India and Dr. Shobha Lisa John, Head of Department of French, for organizing this international webinar. First, let me introduce TSC Economics. We are a fully independent research group based in France, but also with a research office in Chennai. And we provide advisory services for international companies, both financial investors, but also industrial operators. And we advise them on international economic and financial issues. That's very important for them to monitor the business environment, the macroeconomic environment they are operating in. And that's where we intervene for the clients. We cover a large range of macroeconomic issues and risk. Depending on the type of market the company operates, the risks are different. If it's in an advanced economy or an emerging markets or a frontier market with low income, we can look at different type of risks that will affect international companies, be it on the cyclical dynamics. If there is a very large fall down in the economic activity, companies will be affected. It can be on the exchange rates, where it's also influential for capital flows. And we also look at interest rates, oil prices, and we do lots of projections with advanced quantitative analysis for this forecasting. So TSC is a small firm. We are only 12 people in France and 3-4 people in India. But we are able to provide services to several of the CAC 40 companies, very large international French companies, but also companies from Asia, companies from North America use our services because they have a large international presence and they need an independent view for macroeconomic analysis. I'll give you second introduction on my role as a French foreign trade advisor. It's a network about 4,500 people present in every region in France, but also in more than 150 countries in the world. And the idea is to promote France development, but from the business side. So we share our experience working in international companies. On regular basis, we exchange and we partnership with local public and private players. And the idea is to support the development of French company abroad and to promote the attractiveness of France. So it's an official statute. We are nominated by the prime ministers, and we have basically 4 missions. So advising public authorities. So in India, it would be to keep informed the Embassy of France and the economic services and the consulates to know, so they know about the development in the business environment, what are the impediments for businesses and trading, but also what are the good policies taken also by authorities. We support businesses, so if potential investors have queries on any markets, we are there to mentor them or to put them in a relation or to support them in their process to enter the markets. There is a mission of training young people, so it can be, as Julien presented, the VIE scheme, that this long-term internship where we can host these interns in our companies in the world. And the last mission is to promote the attractiveness of France. So lots of companies in very famous brands like L'Oréal will have this flagship of promoting attractiveness of France, but also in many other sectors, it can be important to see a strong point of France. And so today, it's more at this third mission that I'm here and helping young people to know, discover more about the the work that we do in India and how it can foster the bilateral relation. I'll also give some element of background to my presentation because as a macroeconomic analyst, we need to state that we live in a very uncertain global economic and social environment. This was surely not experienced since the end of World War II and the independence of India. So it's a very particular time. And more on global relation, today we have a highly complex convergence of long-term development trends and cyclical transitions taking place with significant business implications. So to name a few, we have the geostrategic rivalry between US and China, so that will redefine the global relation in the long term. We have change in supply chain integration, maybe more in Asia or region-wise, and with the so-called deglobalization also taking place. We have an evolution of consumption pattern, growing concern for impact of climate change. So all this long-term structural trend will have effects on how and why companies operate at the global scale. If you're interested in more about this global relation and the evolution, I will share a link also of a recent presentation we did. It's free for you to read that. And so in this background, economic relation between India and France have been very favorable in the past and will continue to show strong dynamism. Indeed, we don't have a scenario where the bilateral exchanges will remain at the same level. It can be excluded today. So the key message for the presentation here will be on the long-standing economic partnership. We have a robust economic exchange. Julien could have shown the numbers, but I will come in the detail with that. And export and import between France and India have grown by more than 5% per year over the last 10 years. So it's quite an achievement. And so the trade balance for good is slightly more positive for France now, and the balance in service is more positive for India. The amount of import and export are approximately balanced, so it's a good sign. Few sectors are really important in the trade, and we'd say aeronautics, and with the sale of Airbus from France to India has accounted for a large part of French exports. But also chemical products are quite important in the recent dynamic of boosting French export. In terms of investment, the role of French companies is quite significant, though there are some gaps between official and real data. I will just give you some insight about it. And because France and India are the 5th and 7th largest economy in the world, respectively, there's a large room for deepening the economic relation. India is the only 15th trade partner of France, and France is ranked 26th for import in India. So there is a big room for both countries to expand their trade relation. But for investors, when they look at coming in the market or making trade, they also have to balance their long-term opportunities and expected financial returns with the type of measurement of risk, and that also we use these elements of consideration for companies to present what are our output at TSE Economics, how it can be used by company to take investment decision and the normal conduct of business later on. So now the exports from France to India, as I mentioned, it's fueled in one way by transport equipment. So it's very clear here, but there are other brands like Safran also. It's not only Airbus, but it's a large group of companies operating in this field in India for many years and decades now. On the opposite, Indian exports to France are much more diversified. clothing and manufacturing goods are the backbone of these trade flows to France, the elements of fuels are more volatile because fuel prices are affected by price effects. So that will change the volume of imports. When we look at the trade balance between France and India, so France had the small surplus in the last 3 years. It came back to nil in 2019. But we see the balance has only fluctuated between minus 1.5 and plus 1 billion. So it's not a very large deficit on either side. And it's shown that pre-COVID period, there was a very strong equality in the partnership. Regarding the services, so it's another strong element for exchanges between the two countries. We don't have data for 2019, but the trend and the structure for the last decades are pretty revealing. There's usually a deficit for France. France imports more services from India than the reverse because there's a high demand for business and IT services from India. When we look at capital flows, and it was also mentioned by Julien, the French foreign direct investment in India have been on an upward trend, irregular trend, but upward since the beginning of the year 2000. There has been a slowdown in the recent years, but two factors appears to underestimate the aggregate stock of FDI in India. Officially, it's about almost 8 billion of French FDI in India, but the FDI that comes in India are often routed through Mauritius and Singapore, and so that distort the official data. So, and we know for sure that some French companies use this country as an intermediary platform to invest in India. And the second factor was a survey of French company realized in 2018 that was revealing an estimated stock of FDI of about $20 billion. So it's much more than the 8 billion that officially in the data. And so it's about 1 billion per year that French company invest in India, plus the lots of generation of employment along with it. For the content of investment, it goes through various sectors in the services, in the IT, bank, finance. In the chemicals, it's a sector that has seen lots of expansion in trade. So it came before when French company also invested in India. And several sectors like automotive, aeronautics, food industry, today have around 5% each in terms of stock of investment in India. Figures differ a little bit from Julien here because I would say that maybe less than 1,000, maybe more, closer to 700 French group present, but the key presence in the south would be more Karnataka and Tamil Nadu. There are few French companies in Kerala, but the state has not seen so much in comparisons to other larger states in the south. So measuring accurately investment opportunities and risk are also key to successful development. So investors will look at one key measures today, which is the doing business. It's a ranking published by the World Bank. And we all know that India has improved its rank, but from a very low position. So, and it's still below several other large emerging markets. It's still below in rank Mexico or Poland, very far away from Russia or China in the ranking. The trend should continue to improve with clear engagement of the central government for policy aimed at attracting investment, like Make in India, and that should bring more investment in the manufacturing sector, in direct competition, and with maybe some substitution strategy with China. So today, international investors, some of them are disinvesting from China and look at relocating their activities in other Asian countries. And so India is clearly a contender to attract more of this investment. So the risk metrics for India, looking at those economic and financial risks, it's the core of our work at TSC Economics. We monitor permanently 100 emerging markets. We have a database with more than 70 indicators. We update it on a weekly basis. And based on those indicators, we have developed measurement of risk. We combine indicators 2 by 2 on balances. So on the polygon on the left side, you can see the gross balances, the debt balances, and so on. So the idea here is to see what are the structural elements that are strong or that are deficient for one particular economy, and we can compare both the dynamic of one country and compare country between them. And so when we take also these indicators and we compute non-linear, non-parametric combinations, we give us some economic ratings, scale from 0 to 100, so the lowest risk to the highest risk. India today is at 38.8, so it's below 40, and we say it's favorable level of risk. But with our tool also we can distinguish by horizon, and shorter horizon, less than 1 year risk rating is much higher than the longer horizon, 3 to 5 years. So it means that in the long term, we maintain our view of a strong growth potential for the Indian economy, despite the ongoing economic crisis due to the COVID health crisis. And the polygon again will show us that some elements are very favorable, like on the debt side and the liquidity side, because India doesn't have any excessive external debt. So the debt owned to non-residents or in foreign currency. And India also has large foreign exchange reserves. So it's about $500 billion as in August 2020. And on the other side, when we look at other indicators, there is no indicators massively negative. On the banking system, one indicator will be intermediate. On the foreign exchange balance, also one indicator will be slightly unfavorable, but when combined with more favorable indicators, the balance itself is in a strong position. We complement this measure of economic and financial risk with a measure of political risk. Some emerging markets will have a different business environment related to different political regime. And so this data taken from the World Bank are also normalized from 0 to 100. And so we can measure the risk on any particular economy. And for India, the rating is at 50. So it means it's intermediate level of risk, but it's below the average of 100 countries we permanently monitor, which the average is 54. So it's 8% better than the average of the countries. And India has demonstrated strong point on government effectiveness and rule of law, but less favorable for the indicators of the control of corruption. So when investors, they decide to come in to invest in one particular country, they have to consider both elements of risk, economic and political. Two economies can have the same business opportunities, the same growth potential, but if the political risk is much higher in one country, it doesn't make sense to go in that particular country to invest. So when we combine both political and economic, we see India is well placed across the panel of a country we monitor, especially given the size of its domestic market. So the brief presentation on bilateral exchanges and the assessment of risk environment for investors is included now. I hope you have appreciated this, and feel free to share your queries if we have time now.
Thank you, sir, for your provocative session. Now we may move on to the question and answer session. May I read out the question for you, sir, when it comes to the chat box?
Yes.
Okay. So till now, there was one question which was posted. I only had posted the question, but Eric sir had answered me for that. The question was, what are the possible opportunities for BCom students to study French language and related courses?
This is for you, Eric.
Yes, and I did answer that. First, of course, you can ask Dr. Chobalis John, but you can inquire about the Alliance Française, the nearest Alliance Française next to you, which is Kochi or Trivandrum. So at the moment, they offer only online courses, but in normal time, I would say they have courses in their premises and also online courses. So I guess at the moment, it's the best way.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. So there is another question coming up. The question is asked by Sunish Pelmalipalli. The question is, who are having the membership in TAC Economics?
Okay, so today it's we are fully independent private company, and we sell services to very large international companies. We don't have clients, Indian company as clients, but all our clients in Europe or in North America have assets in India. And Julien mentioned the group Suez. For example, we advise the financial department of Suez on the risk, and we provide some other macroeconomic projections to them. And it's our services are packaged into a subscription basis, so we have access to our reports, monthly reports, quarterly reports, based on subscription.
Okay, thank you, sir. Another question is posted by Aishwarya Mohan. The question is, what are the benefits we get while switching to French business and industries?
I don't understand the meaning of the question.
Sir, Aishwarya was asking, while going to French businesses and industries, what are the benefits that they'll get?
You mean rather than working for Indian companies? If that is the question, I would say that French businesses and industry in France and in India have always been more innovative. They focus on quality, they focus on French know-how. So that is a good opportunity for you to learn new ways of working. Also, maybe have an European mindset, French mindset, that you can later on use in your career. And yeah, working with Europe, speaking in other languages, and mainly working in really innovative companies. I mean, I don't know if you agree, Vivian, but I would say that's the main benefits would be that.
Thank you, sir. Another question posted is, sir, healthcare forms one of the major business sector in India and Kerala. Nevertheless, after the outbreak of the pandemic, there has been a marked decline in the number of people availing medical facilities and also in the sale of pharmaceutical companies. So how do you look at this situation as an industrial person?
I'll give one disclaimer, because our work at KC Economics focus only on macroeconomic issue. We don't look at sectors in particular. Our clients cover all the sectors of activities, and usually they are very good at it. But when they need macroeconomic advisory services, they come at us. And that's why we work for banks and financial companies, for industries, for utilities, automotives, our clients. But we don't help them for the sectors. And so I'm not an expert on the pharmaceutical sector in India, but Yes, sector specificity are well covered also in Business France. If I can transfer the questions to Julien,
yeah,
be able to monitor what are the opportunities.
yeah, because yeah, even though it has been difficult for India during this time, it also the medical sector and the pharmaceutical sector in France has a lot of opportunities right now. It's one of the only sectors that has grown, because of the pandemic. Because in terms of stock values and market, a lot of investors actually invested in these companies. And what we are looking at Business France right now is we are a lot of different companies are looking in the medical sector are looking to invest in France right now. So as you know, we have a lot of French companies here in India. We have Sanofi, Biomérieux, Pierre Fabre, Servier, and all those one, Air Liquide also, Peter Surgical, and all those companies are really investing in India. So even though it has been difficult, I think it will start to improve in the next few months because it's a really important sector at the moment.
Thank you, sir. Next question is from Alvin Thomas Joseph. The question is, what are the threats a person would have to face in business and industry field if he is unaware of French language?
That's a really strong question. I don't know if you have to be scared about or like threats. It might be a strong word. If you do not speak English, I mean, in India, that won't be a problem to work in a French company because French companies here in India, even though they are French, they have a lot of Indians working for them. We have only a few French people actually working in India. And even though also in the management and in the top decision makers are Indians as well. So, so you don't have to be careful about that. But if you want to come to France, obviously you will have to learn French if you want to work. But I mean, you're not threatening or anything.
If I could say something, I think it's very important. If you have the opportunity to spend like one semester or 1 year in France studying in one of these programs in English or in French, it doesn't matter which kind of program you choose, but at least you can have an experience in Europe and in France. And when you come to India and you work with one of these companies, even if it's not a French company, if it's a Western company, you have such an international experience in your life. And this is very important to understand how sometimes we react, how we think, how we see the world. We see the world sometimes in a different way. And this part is very important now in business, what we call in French intercultural. It's very important. So we always recommend you to try to spend a minimum of 1 semester in France. Sorry, Olivia, I interrupt you.
Thank you, sir. I hope the queries of those who have put the queries in the chat box, their queries have been cleared. If any more queries, you may please post in the chat box so that we can just move forward. I think the queries have been just stopped. So I think we have come to a conclusion to our question and answer session, to our interactive section. So thanking you, sir, for bearing your time with us with a whole lot of information imbibing into our brains. Thanking all the three sirs. We extend a heartfelt gratitude to all. So the feedback link for the webinar will be dropped in the chat box shortly. And if you face any problem with the link, you may kindly communicate it through the WhatsApp group or the chat box. Now, I invite Dr. Shobha Liza-John, Head of the Department of French, for proposing the vote of thanks.
On behalf of the Department of French and PG and Research Department of Commerce, Sacred Heart College, I extend a sincere gratitude to our two eminent dignitaries of the day, Julia Romano and Vivian Masso, for having organized such a vibrant session. I'm sure it instilled an interest in France and French commercial sector for our participants. Thank you, un grand merci de notre part, for sparing your time sharing such valuable information with us. Next, I'd like to thank Mr. Eric Perrotel for having coordinated this webinar. Je vous remercie, Eric. Without you, this would not have been possible. It's thanks to him that we could think of bringing together an interdisciplinary seminar linking French with commerce. Thank you, sir. Next, I'd like to thank our father, Prashant, our principal, who has been a guide and constant source of support. Thank you, Father, for helping us organize this webinar. I take this opportunity to thank the Dean of Commerce, Dr. Joseph George, and the Head of the Department of Commerce, Professor Tessa, for supporting us in bringing forth such a webinar. Next, I'd like to thank all the participants from various colleges and institutions for having joined this session. I would like to thank all my colleagues who has joined this session. Last but not the least, I'd like to thank the entire team who worked behind this great event under the leadership of Professor Priya P.S. I'd like to thank our tech team, especially our friends Sibi and Sanjay, for helping us in organizing this event. I thank them for their prompt response, especially today when we encountered a technical issue in the beginning. Thank you all for your patient listening. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thus, we have come to an end of this webinar. We thank each and everyone present here for devoting their time to make this webinar a grand success. The meeting will stay open for another 15 minutes for you to access the feedback link and fill that up. Once again, thanking you all. Merci.
Merci à vous.
Welcome, merci.
Merci Eric, merci Vivian, merci Julien.
Merci beaucoup. Thank you, everyone.
À bientôt.
À bientôt.
Bye.
Bye.